Hello everyone, Omni here, and welcome back to WUCHANG Fallen Feathers. This time around, we're going to go through the Dual Blades skill tree, and we're going to show you what all you get, basically. Why you might want to use this class, or this weapon type, rather, and what all you get out of it. So let's waste no time, let's get right to it. So, if you go to the top right here, this is where you start your this is where you start the skill tree for dual blades. Now, to give kind of a summary of what dual blades is all about, dual blades is mainly about three things. Number one, this is the raw DPS weapon type. If you're really just looking to do a bunch of damage within a set amount of time, quick strikes, that kind of thing, that's what this class is for. This is the raw DPS weapon type. Number two, a lot of what you get in this tree revolves around clash. So, like we talked about before, clash is when you and an enemy attack each other at the same time, and there's this kind of a clash that goes on where you will deflect some of the damage that would have been done to you. It will be lessened, and you get to continue your turn provided you still have stamina. This class is probably the best one in the game when it comes to using clash effectively, because so much of what you're able to obtain in this class revolves around you being granted clash, right? So that's number two. And then number three is, not only are you, it kind of is an addendum to the class, not only are you getting clash, but you're also able to get Skyborne Might from the clash. So every time that you're able to hit and you get a clash, if you have the right traits filled out, then you'll be able to get Skyborne Might, which will just further make you more powerful, allow you to do your charged heavy attacks a lot quicker. It'll allow you to get your spells off a lot quicker if you need to. All that different kinds of thing. So that's kind of a touching, well, that's kind of a good summary as to what you can expect to get out of doing dual blades. But when you first start, rather, you start with sudden strike. Advance forward and strike while revolving. Use with Skyborne Might for great potency. This is just what you start with in order to get the tree to be unlocked. And then you go up, you get Feather Chaser. Dual blades attacks can clash. Performing a successful clash grants one stack of Skyborne Might. So even from the very beginning, the two things that they want you to do, or they want you to have while you're using this weapon type, they want you to be able to clash. They want you to be rewarded for clashing, which doesn't necessarily mean that they want you to just keep attacking. They want you to be using these attacks in a more calculated manner, right? They don't want you to just mash your light attack button. I mean, you can do that and you'll get clash, but you'll be more rewarded from it if you're taking your stamina into account while you're attacking. You're also taking the attack animation into account as well, because like I said, it's not the quickest. It is good for DPS and it's probably the most efficient in terms of DPS in the game. But you always want to keep an eye on your stamina bar as well as the animation that's playing, because one thing that they don't tell you about this game is that you're locked into animations for a good amount of time. WUCHANG herself, she's got to stop like completely before she's able to just do another attack. I mean, you could do attack 1 and 2 and then stop for maybe 2 or 3 seconds even, and then hit the light attack button again, and she'll immediately go into 3 and 4. That's how locked in and how committed you are to these attacks. So you want to do it in a more calculated way, in a more calculated manner, so that you're not wasting stamina for one, and you're not caught getting hit in the middle of an animation, because this class is not good for tenacity. It's not good for having resilience and being a tank. That's not what this class is for. So that's always just one thing to keep in mind. But all that to be said, they want you to clash. They want you to gain stacks of Skyborne Might when you do clash. And then we go over here to the left. We've got one level of +1 agility. And then we've got the Sudden Strike variant 1. Sudden Strike gains clash. So the discipline itself gains clash. Actually, no. This is the weapon art, Sudden Strike. So now that gains clash. Successful clashes gain 1 stack of Skyborne Might. Now you notice it says successful clashes. That is because you can clash, using this specifically, you can clash more than one time. There are enemies that you might fight, mainly bosses, but there are enemies that you might fight that will attack repeatedly. And if you are able to use this as they're attacking and clash multiple attacks, you're getting Skyborne Might for each one of those attacks that you clash. So if this is placed properly, you could potentially fill up on your Skyborne Might with just one button press. So that's kind of what I mean about being more calculated about when you press your button, because you could be rewarded very greatly for it, but on the opposite end of that, you could also get punished heavily for that. So something to take into account. Then going over to the right, another level of +1 agility. This is variant 2 of Sudden Strike. Sudden Strike with Skyborne Might exposes your enemy's vulnerabilities further if it hits. So I had to do a little bit of research to see what vulnerabilities are. And basically stating, I was kind of right the first time, but I didn't really explain it right. So anytime you hit an enemy, any enemy, if you lock on to them, you'll see the little lock on dot, and then there will be a circular gauge around that dot. That circular gauge is the vulnerability meter. When that meter reaches full, you then stun them and you're able to trigger an obliterate attack. What this does is when you use this weapon art with Skyborne Might, it further increases the amount of vulnerability that's added to that meter. So you get more added towards that meter once you use this with Skyborne Might. Going up, we have 3 levels of +1 agility, 1 level of +5 agility. This is an agility-based class. Going up, you have 1 unmatched. You can consume 1 stack of Skyborne Might to quickly strike with charged heavy dual blade attacks. So once you have your 1 stack of Skyborne Might, you can just hit the button. You can just hit your heavy attack button, and you don't have to hold it. You just hit it. It's charged automatically, and she'll go and she'll do the full animation for the charged heavy attack. You don't have to hold the button. I found that out earlier too. Going up 1 more, you have Swift Warrior. The 4th attack of a dual blades light attack combo grants 1 stack of Skyborne Might if it hits an enemy. So here we are again, gaining Skyborne Might through aggression. That's kind of what they want. They want you to be aggressive. They want you to have Skyborne Might, but you also want to take into account stamina pool as well as the animation that you're locked in. Now, if you're just going to town, you don't have to worry about it too much because you're not committed enough to where you can't attack and then like backdash or roll away and then you're back at neutral. But if you are going to town or you're fighting a boss where you've gotten a few hits off, well, that boss does not have to respect you and will not respect you or your frames or your animations or anything that you're doing. So that's what I mean about being a little bit more calculated about using your attacks. Get your hits in enough to where maybe you can hit this 4th attack and get your Skyborne Might, back off, recuperate, reassess the situation, and then go back in, right? Going over to the left, we have 1 level of +1 vitality. Further is the first node, Swift Blade. This is the first weapon upgrade node. So we can upgrade that to 3 with 6 faint red feathers. Going up, we have 3 levels of +1 vitality. Going to the left, we have 1 level of +1 vitality. Going up from there, we have 1 level of +5 strength. This is not going to be incredibly useful if you're only using dual blades. This would be more of a, I guess this would be more of like a tertiary thing that you would use if you were using, say, a longsword or an axe or a spear or something like that, right? If you're using those in tandem with the dual blades, this is good for that because that's an extra +5, and it's pretty early on in the tree. So, I mean, that's good for the other weapon type, not so much for dual blades. Then going over, we have our first discipline, Blade Dance. Revolve and launch a flurry of strikes with both blades. Use with Skyborne Might for greater potency, so that makes it hit harder. Going up to the left, you have variant 2, but we're going to do variant 1 first. Blade Dance gains clash. Successful clashes grant 1 stack of Skyborne Might this is a very good discipline to use against certain bosses. I'm thinking of one in particular at the end of Act 2. And using this on that particular boss, at least the first phase of that boss, is very good. Very good. You mitigate a lot of damage, and you end up dealing damage on top of that while still being allowed to continue your turn. Very good variant. And then variant 2, well above 90% madness, Blade Dance inflicts paralysis buildup and exposes your enemy's vulnerabilities further when used with Skyborne Might. So you're adding more to that meter, that vulnerability meter, and you're also going to inflict paralysis, which, if I am correct, paralysis, I believe... Oh, I don't want to second guess myself. Here, let's do this real quick, because I think I know what it is. I think it is... They don't do as much damage, right? Let me see. Weapon traits, terminology, no. What am I looking for here? Yeah. Damage output is reduced. Yeah, so they don't do as much damage when they're paralyzed, right? I thought that's what it was. Okay. So that's what variant 2 does. It will inflict paralysis buildup. When it's finally procced, they won't be doing as much damage for a set period of time. And when you use it on them, your the vulnerability meter is increased more, further. Maybe it's either further or it's like easier, right? It's easier to build it up. Going up, 3 levels of +1 agility, 1 level of +1 vitality. Then we have Leaf Slasher. The 4th, 5th, and 6th attacks of a dual blades light attack combo gain clash. Successful clashes gain 1 stack of Skyborne Might. So if you are just going to town and mashing R1 or whatever your light attack button is, the 4th, 5th, and 6th attack all gain clash. And if for some reason you're able to get a clash on all 3 of those, well, that's 3 stacks Skyborne Might. See, you're constantly steeped in Skyborne Might. You should always have Skyborne Might with this class, which by definition means that this would be a pretty decent class to use in conjunction with magic. But this is, like I said, this is primarily a raw DPS type build. Want you to do clash, want you to have Skyborne Might, that kind of thing. Going over to the right here, we have 1 level +1 agility. Our second Swiftblade node, which will further increase our weapon type by 3. 1 level of +1 agility. And then Mighty Combination here at the bottom. The 6th attack of a dual blades light attack combo grants 1 stack of Skyborne Might if it hits an enemy. So not only are you getting clash with this, if you're able to get Leaf Slasher, but you're also able to gain Skyborne Might if the 6th attack hits. So if it hits is determined by if the attack connects. Now that sounds really basic, but if you clash with an enemy, that is an attack that is deemed to have connected. So not only are you going to be getting the Skyborne Might from the clash, but you're also going to be getting the Skyborne Might from the hit. So if you're able to clash on the 6th hit of a dual blades attack, you're getting 2 stacks of Skyborne Might, right? This is all stuff to kind of keep in mind as you're doing this, because all this stuff matters if you're really trying to gauge what it is that you're all or gauge all of what it is that you're getting. You know what I mean? So that is very important to know. Going up further, we have another 3 levels of +1 agility, 1 level of +1 agility. Going to the left, 1 level of +1 vitality, another level of +1 vitality, 1 level of +1 endurance. Going down, you have Steel Edge, successfully deflecting an enemy's attack with a Twin Bandit's weapon skill block causes the enemy to expose their vulnerability. So as you see here, this guy goes back a little bit, and if you're able to run up to him and hit him, you'll be able to build that gauge, the vulnerability gauge, faster than you otherwise would. But this is specific to the Twin Bandit's weapon. Very good to have, because Twin Bandits are a very good weapon to use within this weapon type. But this is specifically for that weapon. Going over to the left, you have another level of +1 endurance. And then we have our second discipline, Whirling Fury. Spin swiftly and strike with both blades. Use Skyborne Might for greater potency. Variant 1, Whirling Fury gains clash. Successful clashes gain 1 stack or grant 1 stack of Skyborne Might. And again, multiple clashes with this mean multiple stacks of Skyborne Might. Whirling Fury Variant 2. While at above 90% madness, this move becomes faster, usable in quick succession, and increases your resilience when used with Skyborne Might. So now you're getting into kind of like a tanky thing, right? You gain more resilience while at above 90% madness, and it becomes faster. All this is based upon how much madness that you have. If you don't have above 90, you're not going to get anything that comes after 90% madness. It's not going to be faster. It's not going to be usable in quick succession, and you're not going to be able to get your resilience when used with Skyborne Might. So you have to be above. But if you are, you get all that. And then going up, I think I did that one. +1, one level of +1 vitality, 1 level of +1 agility. Going over, you have a 1 level of +5 vitality. Going up, you have another level of +1 agility. Over here, you have 3 levels of +1 magic, so they're complementing those people who do want to use this with magic, and you're definitely going to need magic nodes if you're going to use magic in any serious degree, because magic is good at the beginning when it's not leveled, but the further you go in, the worse it kind of gets, and kind of just, if you don't build on magic specifically, it kind of just doesn't do really anything. So make sure that if you are using magic, and there are any nodes like this in any tree that you decide to go into, that you're building those nodes, because it's definitely going to make a difference. Going over to the right, you have 1 level of +1 endurance. Going down, this is our third node for Swiftblade. This will probably be the one that we end out on, that will make the dual blades +10. Going over to the right, you have 1 level of +1 agility. Further right, you have 5 levels of +1 magic, further bolstering people who want to play with dual blades and magic. Going down, you have 1 level of +1 agility. Over, 1 level of +5 endurance. 1 level of +1 endurance. Going down, 1 level of +1 agility. Going over, you have 1 level of +1 endurance, another level of +1 endurance, another level of +1 endurance, and another level of +1 endurance. Going down from the third node of endurance, you have Deadly Shadow. Dual blades dash attacks gain clash. Successful clashes grant 1 stack of Skyborne Might. So any kind of attack, as you can see here, that you could do with a dual blade, suffice it to say that it's probably going to have a node on here that can be filled out, that can gain clash, and that can grant a stack of Skyborne Might via a successful clash, right? So just that's what that's for. And then going over, you have your third discipline for this class, Shadow Lunge. Brandish your blades in a quick forward lunge, then follow up with a powerful thrust. Use with Skyborne Might for greater potency. Variant 1 allows for rapid successive use of Shadow Lunge. Each consecutive use drains your stamina continuously. So you could just basically use this until your stamina is gone. But if you use it until your stamina is gone, you will be caught in a recovery period. Simply because the move itself, the animation itself, has recovery, and there's also recovery from your stamina if it drains too much. There was this occurrence where in like the old Dark Souls games, where if you only had like 10 stamina, but you used a move that costs like, let's say 30 stamina, well, you would technically be -20. And so the game would register that as you having to make up the -20 that you lost, or that you were like in the red, I guess you could say, and then it would fill up normally. So this actually equated to a longer recovery period for the stamina. It's the same idea here. If you use this consecutively, and let's say the second or third time that you use it, you didn't have the full amount of stamina required to, I guess, use the move. You still use the move, but now you're in the red, however much stamina. That's got to recover first, and then your stamina comes back to 0 and recovers how it normally would. But that's gonna make it to where you have a longer recovery period for your stamina. Now you do have items that can deal with this, where you don't take as much stamina when you use attacks, or your recovery speed for your stamina is increased for a certain amount of time. But generally speaking, if you use this and you don't have enough stamina to do the move per se, you'll be in the red, and that'll account for, or not account for, but that will make you have a longer recovery period for your stamina. And then variant 2, while at above 90% madness, Shadow Lunge inflicts poise break buildup when used with Skyborne Might. Poise break again will, of course, break their poise, and it will deal an instance of damage to them once their poise once it has procced, similar to bleed, right? And then going over here and back down, we have 3 levels of +1 agility. Then we have Wave Breaker, heavy dual blades attacks, and charge attacks gain clash. So the regular heavy attacks and the charge attacks gain clash, and the successful clashes grant 1 stack of Skyborne Might. So every move in this weapon type's move set will at some point be able to obtain clash, and grant Skyborne Might off that clash. Going down, you have 1 level of +1 endurance. You have 3 levels of +1 agility. You have 3 levels of +1 endurance. 1 level of +1 endurance. Going up, 1 level of +5 endurance. Going over, our 4th and final discipline for dual blades, Blade Master. Use with Skyborne Might to gain the Bladeborn buff. Performing a successful clash during Bladeborn restores some health. Now, what is Bladeborn? Bladeborn is a skill specific to dual blades, where it makes your dual blade like attacks even swifter. So they're faster to come out. They're more fluid in their animations and in their execution. And so if having this, it's just something you activate, like a block or like a parry or something like that. It doesn't really cost you, it costs you Skyborne Might, obviously, but it doesn't, basically it's just a buff, right? It's a buff that comes with it, and then it is good for restoring health. So you take all these different moves that you can do, your regular light attack combos, your heavy attacks, some of your disciplines, all the things in all the moves in your moveset that can gain clash, and then you use this and you clash while this is active. Now, not only are you clashing and gaining Skyborne Might, now you're restoring health on top of that. So you're doing 3 things at the same time. So any damage that you might have taken during a clash is now completely negligible because you're gaining health back. And then if you wanted to take it a step further than that, let's say you equipped like Leech, the Leech Bone Needle to your dual blades. Well, now it's something akin to a vampire build if you're doing it correctly. I mean, if you're taking all this stuff into account, minding your stamina, minding your animations, purposely going forward and making sure you're getting your classes how you're supposed to be getting your classes, having the prerequisite nodes that you need to have filled out, using your Skyborne Might as you need to use your Skyborne Might, and then having Bladeborn buff put on you. Theoretically speaking, now I'm not going to say you won't die, and I'm not going to say that you'll be invincible or anything like that, but done correctly, you could have a pretty hard time dying, because you'll always have health. And then if you want to take it even further than that, there are benediction stones that you can have where you do more damage while you're at full health, right? So, and I think there might even be a pendant that does the same thing, where you do more damage while you're at full health. You see what I mean? It all just kind of ties in together. This is your DPS class. And if done correctly, you could always have health, always have Skyborne Might, always be clashing, barely taking any damage. This is a very, very, very powerful weapon type if used correctly in the right hands. Very, very good. Variant 1 of Blade Master increases the duration of the Bloodborne buff gained from Blade Master, just makes it last longer. Variant 2, Restoration Effect becomes more potent while at above 90% madness. So you can also add this on top of it. It already did what it was going to do just from this. Now that restoration effect is more potent. And you still got leech, and you still got all the different weapon skills and stuff that you can use that clash. It's potent. This is a very good one. I'd head for this one first. If I was just starting out in this tree, I would head straight to the right and go to claim this and go to claim that. Absolutely. Hell, claim both of them because you can have both of them, right? And then going down, 1 level of +1 endurance, and our 4th and final Swift Blade node that will get us another 3 levels if we wanted to. So that is dual blades, right? A very, very powerful weapon subtype that prioritizes Skyborne Might, clashing, and just raw DPS attacking, just going to town. Keeping in mind your stamina, keeping in mind the animation that you're in, you could do so much with this class. You could do so much damage with this class. And with Bladeborn equipped as a discipline, you could just go. You could mitigate. I mean, you're already mitigating damage through clashes. Now you're mitigating even more damage because you're healing every time you hit. Right? You're healing every time you get that clash on top of mitigating the damage, and you're still provide yourself stamina. It's still your turn. You can still keep going. You can still do what you need to do. Then you have items that lessen how much stamina you use when you attack. You have items that greatly can increase the speed in which your stamina recovers. DPS all the way. I mean, I know I've been beating a dead horse this entire video, but that's what this class is. This class is raw DPS that prioritizes clashing and gaining Skyborne Might. And there's even a couple of magic nodes in here that will help you do a little bit more damage with your magic if you decide to use it with this class. So yeah, that is Dual Blades. A very good class. A class that I've spec'd into at least a couple of times and used for a good bit, probably about an act or so. And within the game, I probably beat an act or two with the dual blades, and I didn't get super deep into it in terms of like build making and stuff, just because first playthrough I was just kind of going through and seeing everything, just having a taste of everything and seeing what I liked and what I didn't like. But going through this tree now, you can tell that if you want to be a DPS, if you want your Skyborne Might, if you want to clash, if you just always want to have a turn, this is the weapon type to use. So go ahead, use this class if that is something that complements your playstyle. That's something that appeals to you, right? But anyways, that was all I really had to say about that. So thank you all for watching. Hope you learned something. Hope it was informative. Next time around, we'll probably go over one-handed blade or the one-handed sword. And I'll be honest, I don't know much about the one-handed blade, but I'm sure that we can get through it together and understand exactly how to use it effectively. The only real thing that I know about one-handed swords is that it's the primary weapon type you want to use if you're really interested in magic. It's very good for that, and it supplements magic a lot better than any of the other weapon types, right? So, with all that being said, this was Omni. Hope you enjoyed. God bless you all, and I'll see you later. Bye-bye.